My relatives said we were the family of failures. Then they learned that I was a doctor. My dad drove a bus for 30 years, and my mom cleaned office buildings at night. We lived in a small apartment while my cousins lived in huge houses because their parents were all lawyers and business owners. Every family reunion was the same thing. Uncle Harold would ask Dad if he was still driving that bus like it was something shameful. Aunt Rita would tell Mom about her new designer purse while Mom sat there in her Target clearance clothes. Cousin Bradley would talk about his acceptance to Yale while looking at my brother and me like we were headed straight to community college. They'd always make these comments about how some people were meant for bigger things and others had to accept their station in life. My parents never fought back, just smiled and said they were proud of their honest work. But I saw how Dad's shoulders would drop when Uncle Harold talked about his latest promotion. I watched Mom's face when Aunt Rita would accidentally forget to invite us to the fancy family events because we wouldn't fit in with their important friends. When I was applying to colleges, the whole family laughed when I said I wanted to be a doctor. Cousin Bradley actually said out loud that people like us didn't become doctors, we became patients. Aunt Rita patted my mom's hand and said it was sweet that I had dreams, but I should be realistic about my abilities. Uncle Harold offered to get me a job at his company in the mailroom when I inevitably dropped out. They didn't know I'd already gotten a full-ride scholarship to a state school based on my grades. I didn't tell them either. For 8 years, I disappeared from family events. Told my parents to say I was working, which was true. I was working my way through pre-med, then medical school, then residency. 80-hour weeks, living on vending machine coffee, studying until my eyes burned. My parents knew what I was doing, but I made them promise not to tell anyone. They'd ask why, and I'd say I wanted to focus without the family's negative energy. Really, I was planning something better. During those 8 years, the relatives got worse. They'd ask my parents if I dropped out yet. When my brother became an electrician, they said at least one of us learned a trade instead of chasing impossible dreams. They started excluding my parents from more events, saying it was too expensive and they'd understand since money was tight for bus drivers. Uncle Harold loved telling the story about how he'd offered me a mailroom job, and I was too proud to take it, probably why I was failing now. Cousin Bradley became a financial advisor and made sure everyone knew he was managing portfolios worth millions, while my family couldn't even manage to show up to reunions. They actually started a family group chat without us, where they planned vacations and shared success stories. Mom found out from a family friend and cried for days. Then came Grandma's 90th birthday party, big fancy event at a hotel ballroom that Uncle Harold paid for. He made sure everyone knew he'd covered everything because that's what successful family members do for those they love. My parents were put at a table in the back corner with the family friends. No one really knew. I showed up late, straight from a 36-hour shift, still in my scrubs because I didn't have time to change. Uncle Harold saw me first and loudly said, "Look who finally showed up dressed like a janitor." Aunt Rita asked if I was working at a hospital now, and before I could answer, she said at least cleaning work was steady employment. Bradley made a joke about how I must have finally taken that mailroom job, but at a hospital instead. The whole room was laughing. That's when the hotel manager approached, asking if there was a doctor present because someone in the lobby was having chest pains. The relatives kept laughing about their jokes while I followed the manager out. Turned out to be a mild panic attack, but I stayed with the man until the ambulance arrived, doing the full assessment to be safe. The manager was so grateful that he announced to the whole ballroom that they were lucky to have such a skilled emergency physician in attendance. Dr. Rivera called me, using the title and last name from my hospital badge. The room went silent. Uncle Harold asked what the manager meant by doctor. The manager explained I'd just provided emergency care, and he'd looked me up, and I was actually the head of emergency medicine at the biggest trauma center in the state, the youngest department head in the hospital's history. Aunt Rita laughed nervously and said there must be a mistake because I was just, and then she stopped because she couldn't say what she'd been about to say. I walked back to the microphone they'd set up for speeches and introduced myself properly for the first time in 8 years. Full story on channel, link below.